Rob Will just got arrested, and the moment everyone has been waiting for is finally here. But if you think this is a clean and simple arrest, you are about to be shocked. This is not the ending you imagined. This is the beginning of something far darker and far messier than anyone expected. Sheriff Wade does not just walk in and slap handcuffs on him for fun. There is blood behind this, there is betrayal behind this, and there is a secret that has been buried for far too long that finally claws its way to the surface. Rob Will spent this entire season hiding, running, and lying his way out of every trap that closed in on him. But this time, there is no rehab center to escape to, no family name to hide behind, and no Bula to save him with a single announcement. This time, the walls are not just closing in, they have fully collapsed. And the most terrifying part is that the man who finally brings him down is someone Rob Will trusted with his life. Stay until the end because I am about to break down exactly how this arrest happens, who turns on him, what evidence finally seals his fate, and what this means for every single person left standing on Dutton Ranch. Nothing about this is simple, and nothing about this is safe. Dutton Ranch Episode 8 opens in a place this show has never let us sit in before, a place of pure exposure. Rob Will walks through that ranch like a man who believes he has already won. Like the title Bula gave him at the party is enough to protect him from everything he has done. But power handed to you by one dying announcement is not the same as power you have earned, and Episode 8 makes that painfully clear within the first few minutes. Walken has already made his move. The gun that killed Wes is no longer hidden in some drawer or buried under guilt. It is sitting in Sheriff Wade's hands, and that single object changes the entire direction of this story. Walken did not hand that gun over out of confusion or fear. He handed it over because something inside him broke the moment Bula chose Rob Will over him in front of everyone who mattered. Years of loyalty, years of cleaning up messes, years of protecting a man who never once protected him back. All of it collapsed the second he realized he would always be second to a man who does not deserve to be first at all. That is not a small moment. That is the turning point of this entire season, and Episode 8 forces us to watch what happens when a man like Walken finally decides loyalty is no longer worth the price. Sheriff Wade does not move carelessly, though, and this is where the tension becomes almost unbearable. He knows a gun alone does not put a man behind bars, especially when there is no body and no living witness. Chad is dead, the one person who saw everything happen to Wes, and Wes's body is gone, thrown into a mine shaft by Rip in a desperate attempt to erase the truth. Without the body, there is no way to match the bullet to the weapon, and without a witness, there is no one to place Rob Will at the scene. This is exactly the kind of gap that should protect a guilty man, and for a moment it feels like it might. But Walken is not finished. He does not stop at the gun. He tells Sheriff Wade something far more dangerous. He tells him that Wes's body was originally found on Dutton land before it disappeared. That single sentence changes everything, because now Sheriff Wade is not just looking at a murder, he is looking at a cover-up, and cover-ups have a way of dragging far more people into the fire than anyone expects. The moment that detail lands, you can feel the entire investigation shift directions. It is no longer just about Rob Will pulling a trigger, it is about who helped him disappear the proof, who moved the body, who covered the tracks, and who has been protecting this family from consequences they should have faced a long time ago. Rip's name does not get said out loud yet, but the silence around it is loud enough on its own. Every person watching this knows exactly where this thread is about to lead, and that uncertainty is what makes this episode so unbearably tense. Rob Will, meanwhile, has no idea how close the walls really are. He is too busy enjoying a power that was never truly his to begin with. He starts making moves on the ranch immediately, asserting himself over people who have given decades of their life to that land, people who understood exactly what it takes to hold something like Dutton Ranch together long before Rob Will ever wandered back through that front gate. He does not understand the unspoken rules. He does not understand the relationships that keep this place from falling apart. He only understands taking, and that is exactly the kind of arrogance that gets a desperate man caught. While Sheriff Wade quietly builds his case from the outside, something just as dangerous is happening from the inside, and at the center of it is Beth. Beth does not panic, Beth prepares, and that distinction matters more than people realize. The moment she warns Carter to be ready for the hard parts that are coming, you know she already sees the storm before it arrives. She is watching Rob Will inherit a position he never earned, controlling a business deal she spent years building with Bula, a woman who actually understood the value of what they created together. Rob Will is not Bula. He is reckless. He reacts emotionally. And Beth has seen exactly what a man like that does the moment he feels powerful and threatened in the same breath. That combination terrifies her more than anything Sheriff Wade is doing, because Rob Will sitting on power he cannot control is far more dangerous to her family than any badge. And then there is Carter, the person Rob Will decides to target almost immediately. Carter broke the bullhead during the anniversary celebration. A small accident, the kind of mistake any kid could make. But a man like Rob Will does not need a real reason to go after someone. He just needs a target he can use to remind everyone who is supposedly in charge now. The situation grows even more dangerous the moment Rob Will learns about Carter and Oriana. What started as a minor incident at a party suddenly turns into something Rob Will sees as a threat to something he considers his. And Rob Will does not handle threats with patience or conversation. He handles them with aggression. This is the moment everything Beth warned Carter about finally arrives, and it forces Beth and Rip to step out of the shadows and directly into the fight. With Bula in the hospital, there is no one left to calm the storm. No one left to stand between these people and the consequences of their own choices. The confrontation between Beth, Rip, and Rob Will becomes inevitable. And when it finally happens, it does not feel like a simple disagreement. It feels like years of buried resentment finally exploding into the open. Beth is not just protecting Carter in this moment. She is protecting everything she has built, everything Bula trusted her with, and everything Rip has sacrificed to keep safe. Rip, meanwhile, is sitting on a secret far more dangerous than anyone realizes. He is the one who moved Wes's body. He is the one who threw it into that mine shaft. And when Walken eventually comes to him needing answers that only he can provide, Rip is forced into an impossible decision. Helping Walken means exposing himself completely, admitting to the very thing that could destroy his life with Beth. But refusing to help Walken means Rob Will stays protected. And Rob Will staying protected means the people Rip loves the most remain in danger every single day he walks that ranch. There is no comfortable choice here, only the lesser of two devastating outcomes. And that is exactly the kind of moral pressure that makes this episode feel so suffocating. Every relationship on this ranch is being tested at the exact same time, and none of them are walking away from episode 8 the same way they walked into it. This is where episode 8 reaches its most dangerous point, because secrets that have been buried for an entire season finally start clawing their way back to the surface. And nobody on that ranch is ready for what comes next. Bula's heart attack, as devastating as it looked, is not the end of her story, and there is a very specific reason for that. Episode 7 spent real time giving us pieces of Bula's history we had never seen before. Her connection to Mariano, the truth about who Rob Will's real father actually is, her relationship with Everett, and the deeper bond she shares with Walken. A show does not spend that much time building those threads only to cut them off right before they matter. That heart attack does not exist to remove Bula from the story. It exists to remove her from power at exactly the moment everyone else is forced to reveal who they really are without her there to control the outcome. And that is exactly what we see happening. Rob Will overplays his hand the second nobody is watching closely enough. Walken finally acts on years of buried resentment. Beth is pushed into choosing between business and family. Rip is forced to decide how far he is willing to go to protect the people he loves. None of this escalates the way it needs to if Bula is still standing there keeping the peace. And that absence is exactly what makes this episode explode the way it does. Then there is Keen, someone people are underestimating completely. Keen has been part of this ranch in a way that goes far beyond simply working there. She understands its history, its relationships, and its unspoken rules better than almost anyone left standing. The moment Rob Will starts asserting his so-called authority, Keen refuses to fall in line. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly and completely. And that quiet refusal becomes one of the most powerful moments of resistance in the entire episode. It tells Rob Will, without a single shouted word, that a title handed to him by a woman now lying in a hospital bed means absolutely nothing to the people who actually built this place. And then there is Whitney, the person I believe is still holding the one piece of information that could finally explain why Rob Will wanted Wes dead in the first place. You can have the gun, you can know where the body was hidden, but without a motive, the case still has a hole in it large enough for a guilty man to slip through. Whitney is the missing piece, and the longer she stays hidden, the more dangerous her eventual return becomes. Every secret in this episode is connected. Every buried truth is leaning against another, and the moment one falls, they all come crashing down together. That is what makes this section of episode 8 feel less like a slow burn and more like a lit fuse waiting for the exact wrong moment to finally reach the end. This is the moment the entire season has been building toward. The moment Rob Will finally faces the consequences he has been running from since the very first episode. Sheriff Wade does not move the second he has the gun. He waits. He builds. He lets Walken's information settle into a real foundation before making his next step. But once Walken reveals where the body originally was, and once the pressure from Rip's involvement starts pulling at the edges of the cover-up, Sheriff Wade finally has enough to act. The arrest itself does not happen quietly. It happens in front of the people Rob Will spent this entire season trying to control. In front of the ranch he believed belonged to him simply because Bula said so in one fragile moment before collapsing. That single announcement was never a real claim to power. It was words spoken by a woman who is now lying in a hospital bed, unable to protect him any further. Rob Will did not earn that ranch. He did not build it. He did not protect it. He only ran from the consequences of his own actions until he thought enough time had passed for everyone to forget. Episode 8 proves that nothing was forgotten, and everything he thought he escaped was simply waiting for the right moment to come back twice as hard. The moment Sheriff Wade places him under arrest, you can feel every storyline this season collide at once. Walken finally gets the justice he has been denied his entire life, even if it costs him the only family he has ever known. Beth and Rip are left standing in the wreckage of a confrontation that almost destroyed everything they built together, now forced to figure out what comes next without Rob Will's chaos hanging over every decision. Carter survives a threat that could have ended far worse, but the damage of that confrontation lingers, a reminder of exactly how dangerous Rob Will became the moment he tasted real power. And Bula, still recovering, still fighting to hold on to her place in this story, now has to face a ranch that has changed completely in the time she was unconscious. Nothing she built is the same, nothing she controlled is stable, and the family she fought so hard to protect is now fractured in ways that cannot be easily repaired. The arrest does not feel like a victory. It feels like an explosion whose shockwaves are only just beginning to spread. Rob Will is gone from the ranch, but the chaos he created is not gone with him. Walken now has to live with the fact that he turned in his own brother. Rip now has to live with the fear that his own secret could be exposed next. Beth now has to rebuild a business partnership that crumbled the second Bula collapsed. And somewhere out there, Whitney is still holding the one piece of information that could turn this from a simple arrest into something far bigger, something that could reach people on that ranch who believe they are still safe. Episode 8 does not end the story. It ends the illusion that anyone on Dutton Ranch was ever truly protected. The consequences that everyone tried to outrun finally caught up, and what comes next is going to be even more dangerous than the arrest itself. Do you think Rob Will deserved this ending? Do you think Walken made the right choice by turning on his own brother? And do you believe Whitney is still out there waiting to bring even more truth into the light? Let me know exactly what you think in the comments below.